What time
Hey,
is
what's
it?
up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Break Turn. Today we have Sir Nik Fialka in the room. I
What's
need a
up?
keyboard like Josh Lee has, where he pushes the key and the cheers in the background with the strobe lights.
That's true. I have some. I have like a curse word. Like I can just do that and push that button. I have
We
a
have
whole
Nik
bunch of them.
Beep Fialka. So fun fact for our audience, Nik and I both went to a Hanson concert last night where we lost our voices and we got a cold. Or was it a New Kids on the Block? I think they both played, didn't they?
You know what's funny is you were in Orlando, and 20 years ago I was at Disney Springs, and the New Kids on the Block were like playing outside on an open stage at Disney Springs, and I was like, "What in the world?" So yeah, I've seen NKOTB.
Oh, oh, oh. No, it's
Most
great.
people are not as old as me and you, pal. They're not going to
Yeah.
know that song.
It was a BTS or a Taylor Swift, whatever the young kids are
Yeah,
listening to these days.
K-pop. We were all having
K-pop.
K-pop.
Yeah. No, it's good. So I appreciate Nik coming on today. We're trying to have a kind of a short episode of just
Good
talking
luck.
about kind of the changes in the industry. I know there was a podcast, Ready for Pushback, that Nik hosts that talks about, logbooks. He had a conversation with American Airlines, and it kind of was a little bit of a bomb, right? My phone, I got about 12 texts that day of people saying like, "Did you hear this? Did you hear this?" And I'm like, no, I got to watch it. And it was a change. So I want to kind of talk about those changes today. Nik and I had a couple conversations about, clarifying info. What I want to say though for the audience is this episode is not designed to be the answers to your questions.
Yeah.
We're going to discuss things. We're going to talk about what we've heard. Nik's going to talk about what he's heard, but we don't want you to take away and say, well, this is what they said on the podcast. That's the truth, because we don't know. We're not recruiters. And oh yeah, things change all the time. So that's something we want to keep focused on. But I mean, Nik, what do you to get us started off? I mean, last week we talked with American. Did you get any like calls about like what's going on or what happened to you?
So that's very funny that we're talking about like these quote unquote rumors things, because I last night did a podcast or a webinar with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pilots all about rumors for the year. And so it's very fitting because you had asked me last week to do this. And so here we are. Let's kind of set the stage about the American stuff. Okay. Uh, I got a call from American. They invited my Spitfire team and I onto a really, really, really awesome Teams meeting. It was like an hour and a half long, where they went through all of the things, all of the shortcomings that they're seeing with people that come in to interview, because they want these candidates to be hired. And if you get an invite to American Airlines to stand in a suit with them, they want you on board. They want to hire 100% of the people. And so there are some things that get people sent home because it just is a bridge too far. One of the things probably the thing they talked about most was logbooks. And so what I did is like we recorded the words so that we could go back and I can make an episode where I can give that information accurately, because American is really focused on making sure people know this information. So I felt like a huge amount of pressure to do that. So I did. One of the things they had mentioned was about helicopter time and how they count it or don't count it and where it goes. And the way it was articulated, I made my podcast about that it doesn't count toward total time, and that it is just broken out. And believe it or not, people listen and watch my show. And so, yes, your phone blew up. My internet, like I got the most angry shit I ever heard from anybody coming in. Sorry, I curse as well. I can use that button. But I do, it happened. The information got out so violently that American sent an email, which I have right here. They sent me an email like, hey, we would like to make a correction to the record and like make this modification. So if you would indulge me, I would appreciate to read this email. Is that okay?
Let's do it.
Okay, sweet. Please correct the following in your post about American Airlines best logbook practices. Let us know if you have any additional questions. It's written in yellow. It's hard. So the post was, I think Milkeep made this post. It says, we do not want rotary wing helicopter time. However, the time should be separated out so we can easily review the fixed wing time. Rotor helo time is still used for total time and needs to be included in the total time calculations. Okay. So I think it was a semantics conversation that happened, and that correction, we just got this email. So I want to make sure everybody knows, everybody listening to here is probably in the helicopter boat. Now, the things that you should not include from your total time are RPA time, like your UAV dudes and gals. So that does not count towards your total time. Simulator time, which shouldn't count toward your total time. And there are I understand that there's very specific ways that you can count simulator time towards your total time based on the FARs. However, you want to break that stuff out and let American decide for themselves. Okay. You don't want to be competitive based on 110 hours of Class D simulator time, right? You want to be extra competitive because you have the minimums and you also have these extra simulator time. So that being said, the correction to the record ought to smooth all the feathers. I never realized how many, they had pitchforks and torches outside my house. They killed 10 of my chickens. All the helicopter times came out, helicopter dudes came out. The 160th landed in my yard and zip tied me. And I was sitting next to Maduro for 20 minutes down in Gitmo. Anyway, y'all, I'm sorry, but so I wanted to make that correction, and I love you. And I'm nobody even knows I'm a helicopter guy still. They don't even remember because I'm that old.
60s for life, man.
Bro, helos for life. Let's go. So does that answer your question? Are we done with this podcast now? Are we done recording?
Yeah, podcast complete. No, that's good. No, I appreciate that. You said a couple things, and I want to kind of run down, and we'll keep the conversation going.
Sure.
As usual, these aren't scripted. So the first thing is you talked about the rumor mill, and you have an episode about the rumor mill. Just encouraging folks, and maybe ask your thoughts on this. Rumor mills are useful. But we have to be careful with rumor mills and how they affect our emotion and how they affect our decisions. So rumor mills, I always like to say that rumors always started with some shed of truth. Unless you're me and I make up rumors on purpose, an airline, a major carrier is going to open up a base in Nashville because I live there, right? But generally, if rumors kind of make their rounds, there's some truth there. So it's okay to kind of look at them and pay attention to them, but not to let them affect our emotion and what our decisions are. Rumors are going to be nonstop in the airlines. What do you think about the rumor mill and how pilots or people trying to be pilots receive them and analyze them?
I think that hearing these rumors, here's my perspective. You hear these rumors, you dwell on them, and then you make yourself fit that rumor in hopes that it benefits you somehow, whether it's the time thing with American or getting hired at Frontier or getting how to be most competitive at United or whatever the thing is. The thing, I was told this. I cannot tell you how many texts when I was getting ready to do the webinar about rumors. I got a text from a Czech airman at a major airline asking about the fact, is it true that United's not hiring traditional? They're only doing UMPP hires right now. I was like, what are you even talking about? My buddy who has a buddy who has a buddy. So if you dwell on that, it's actually it's going to negatively affect your mental health. And the only thing you can do is control what the hell you can control. Get your hours, keep getting hours. Don't worry about the fact that some dude got hired at 1,501 hours. You need, and you've got your restricted ATP mins, keep chugging along, find a way, find a direction. You feel like you're stuck at a regional, don't worry about it. You're getting paid like a god compared to what everybody else was paid 7 years ago. So that's great. That's a good place to be. If you have to suffer at a regional airline making $130,000 a year while everybody else is working at 9 o'clock to 7 o'clock and they're doing it 5 days a week and they're making 90 grand a year, you won. and you've got 15, 17 days off a month, you won. If you're trying to get to that regional, realize that you're going to win. If you're trying to build your flight time and all the things, the best thing you can do is study for your check ride. The best thing you can do is come ready to fly the pattern. The best thing you can do is do a short field takeoff. And so keep doing that stuff and don't let the bull crap in the background bother you, because you can't control that. The only thing you control is how much money you have to buy the next flight hour. And so go do that harder and listen to my show while you're doing it.
Yeah, ready for pushback. That's you're
Driving
just
your Uber.
crushing it, man. No, I love that. I think one thing I was taught, and I drew on my cup because I like props. You have a circle of control and a circle of concern. Those overlap sometimes. Your circle of concern, I'm concerned about the hiring trends, and you have the circle of control. I need to build time, or maybe I want to get a type rating, pay for a type rating to make me more competitive, which we'll get to in a minute. And so, like Nik said, if it's inside your circle of concern, we can look at it, but focusing our energy on what's inside our circle of control is paramount in this industry. I mean, it's not just for getting hired. It's do I change aircraft, go to wide body? Do I upgrade to captain? Do I change airlines, right? All of those things are things we have to decide about, and the circle of concern and control come back up. For all the Alabama haters out there, Nick Saban would say, just do the next play flawlessly. If you're blocking, do your block flawlessly. So like Nick said, do your short field flawlessly, get your hours, be deliberate, right? Plan those things out, but don't let it change your perspective on what you want to do. Also, for all of our veterans that listen, I mean, this is basic mission planning. You have a backup plan, you have contingencies, you have COA, course of action, you have COAs 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So if you were on the rails to go straight to X airline and things change because welcome to the regiment. Things change in the airlines all the time. It is what it is. Get used to it. You have a backup plan you can flex to. You don't have to change your goal. The goalpost doesn't move, but your journey to the goalpost may, and that's okay, which I think is pretty important. The second thing that you mentioned, which I kind of wanted to highlight, is, and I think this is true across the board. I'm not in every airline, so I can't say that with absolute fact, but if you get an interview, so Nik said, if you're in line with your suit on, you've got the job. Like if you're in front of me and we're interviewing, I have deemed that you're who I want to hire. I just have to ask you some questions. So with that, I would encourage folks to feel good about that. If you get an interview, it's essentially your job to lose. Okay. And secondly, take that very seriously. The industry of COVID, which seems like forever ago, but also it seems like yesterday, it is long gone. So what I mean by that is when you show up, having a suit that fits, being on time, having your documents in order, right? Having them printed nicely. ProSoft is a company that BreakTurn works with to print your documents very nicely. Having all of your things that are easily read, having your logbook tabbed, getting interview prep. Spitfire is a great interview prep company. Before, you could maybe get away with just going to aviationinterviews.com and kind of playing the game. But now, if you don't take it seriously, I'm not saying it's required to do these things. What I'm saying is if you go to the interview, which is yours to lose, the job, and you don't get it, and you didn't get interview prep and resume prep, you will wonder, I wonder if I would have gotten interview prep and resume prep if it would have been better. So to avoid that situation, spend the money, spend the time, put 100% effort. So if they don't hire you, you can look back and say, I gave it my all and it didn't work out. What do you think about that, Nik?
I think that I want to jump back to one of the things about your control and concern. And you remember maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, there was a disturbance in the force at Liberty. Something happened and they lost their ability. The VA and the Liberty people didn't agree anymore, and something happened and people stopped flying, and people had a what do I do now moment. And if you don't know anything about civilian or general aviation, Flight schools can come and go. They can be big schools like big colleges, or they could be individual mom and pop shops, but they can come and go pretty quick. And so that is a great example of things that you have a high level of concern about, but you have zero control over. And those people were stuck, especially because they were using their GI Bill to fly and this and that. And it eventually got ironed out, but boy, there was some sour grapes about how it all went down. That that idea of what if my school goes away, like that should be part of your contingency planning. What if the federal government changes how the VA pays people? What if the GI Bill goes away? What if they're not going to do VRNE? What if they're going to reduce your disability number? What if you were 100% P&T and you thought you were good and now you're no longer? And everybody might be rolling their eyes, but all you've got to do is look at what the VA just put out yesterday about the changes they're making based on medication and disability ratings. And like that's a huge threat if that is how you are leaving the military, planting your flag in the fact that like this is a sure thing, but it's not. It is not a sure thing. The money I get from the VA is not a sure thing. The
Yeah.
money that they're paying for your flight training is not a sure thing. And so have your contingencies ready, because if you're not contingency planning, then you're failing already. And I want you to be careful with that and think about like have in the background COA 1, COA 2, COA 3. And then as you're working COA 1 and it's working out for you, always be ready to pivot to COA 2 and COA 3, because never know when you're going to get punched in the face.
Yeah. I mean, and that's true. Like that's kind of a life truth, but for all of our veterans out there, I mean, this should be normal to you. I know Austin, will say a lot. Austin Roth will say, when you're in the military, you're kind of told where to go and what to do, and you kind of backwards plan off that. You're told where the target is, right? For an aerosol type situation. But when you leave, like you have to set the target, and the target can move, right? But the standard mission planning, the contingencies, and your COAs, that doesn't change. So you've been doing that your whole career. Why stop now, right? Why give yourself one COA, and if it doesn't work, then you're aboard, right? It's not a good look. One thing you said too when you talk with American was, they like to look at the logbooks. I like to dip into that for a little while.
Okay.
So we talked about a question I have, right, is okay, so sim time doesn't count towards my total time.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm not trying to overcomplicate it, but it simplifies it in my head because I'm publicly educated, and so
Me
I'm
too.
not the smartest. You have your logbook hours, which is in your logbook. So,
Yeah.
well, Landon, my total time has sim in it because in the military, when I did a level 5 sim, I was allowed to log it as flight time. It's for my minimums for whatever that reg is, 95.1 or whatever the reg is, and
Sure.
right. So I got to go back and, okay, well, hold on a second. So whatever your logbook says, it can say whatever your logbook says, right? As long as you label it correctly. And then you have whatever the airline, so we'll say airline apps, whatever the application has, there's blocks in there, okay? If those aren't the same, or if we have questions, that's fine. There's a way to explain that, right? And then you have your cover sheet, your resume, that has hours on that. So Nik, how would you encourage somebody or give advice to somebody that says, well, Landon, I have 200 hours of sim time in my logbook. It's to my total time. Do I need to completely change my logbook so the totals on each page remove sim time? Or do I just change it on my airline apps? Or do I make my cover sheet or my resume hours reflect? Like, what do I do about this?
All right. The best quote we had when we were talking to the team at American, the best quote was, I don't want to have to pull out a calculator to figure out your flight time. It was so good. And I was like, yeah, dude, like I get it. I'm like, I will plant my flag on, I am not the logbook ninja. I am not the person that knows every type of flight time and how to log it and where to put it, but I am the person that knows how to apply to an airline. If I like right over here is my logbook. I've got it. I've got my logbooks that I brought to all my interviews when you and I went to our interview together and all the things. Like I had the same stuff. And the way I did it is I had the Navy did it pretty smart because they, on our paper logbooks, you had all your flight time, and then you flip to the back of the book, and that's where they log all the sim time. So they're two independently
Mhm.
stovepipe things. So that's pretty
Mhm.
sweet. If you have things gone through, the first thing you have to do is you have to Rain Man your logbook. You have
Mhm.
to go through every line with your calculator twice and count up and make sure everything adds up. If it doesn't add up, you don't grab some white out and make the change. The thing you do is you take a little colored post-it tab and you just put it down on that page and you make a note to yourself on your notebook of what that error is and how much it is. You keep doing your addition, you keep finding whatever those errors or the places you need to pull out some time or whatever, and you keep adding the thing up, signing the thing, making sure it's perfect, and making that list. And by the time you're done and you've gone through it twice, you know you have 2,000 hours, and 60 hours or 30 hours or point 0.6 or whatever are errors, and they're not right. And so that's where you create your addendum page. And your addendum page is the thing that just walks them through your logbook. And so it's an affidavit that you make that say, here are my hours. Here's how they break down. I got this 2,000 hours of total time. I've got 1,600 hours of helicopter time and my back really hurts. I've got, you're too bad you can't count FCF time. We'd have 10,000 hours of time, bro. Like, so then you have like, here's my fixed wing time. That fixed wing time breaks down into multi-engine, single engine piston, single engine turbine, whatever it is. Multi-engine turbine is not flying a 53. It's not flying a 47. It's not flying a little bird. It's not flying anything like that. Multi-engine turbine means airplane. And so keep that in your head. I'm sorry. I don't mean to disappoint. I was super disappointed when I found that out because I had all my Big Daddy Cool Guy hours that didn't count for that. And so it just is a fact of the matter. So, okay, I'm rambling on. So you have your list of what's up and where and how it all totals out and how it breaks down individually. That's a nice way to look at it. Now you have your affidavit at the bottom, like here are where you're going to find errors. This date, this flight time, this reason. And if you really want to make it an affidavit, you could certainly have that notarized and be like, I swear that this is true. And that helps them look at it and have a good understanding of who you are. Okay, you counted, like the military counted in your sim time. That's not your fault. Like, I understand, but at least we know that's 42 hours and we see your total time. So that's like, you're still competitive, or maybe you're not. And thanks for stopping by. But when you go to Americans or Deltas or United or Frontier or whoever, when you go to their application, it's going to ask, it may ask what your total time is, or it might just add it up for you. It might ask you what's your aircraft, drop down Cessna 152, and then how many hours in that, how much PIC, how much SIC, how much dual given, how much cross country, and then it'll all gonkulate out. Southwest does a good job of gonkulating that. And what you want to do, let's talk about this too. What you really want to do is give them the dry numbers that don't have any
Mhm.
kind of additive. Some people will add 0.2 or 0.3 for military. Why
Yes.
do they do that? Because we don't have a Hobbs meter in the aircraft and we spend a ton of time taxiing around. And so when somebody is logging 152 time, they're going off what the Hobbs meter said from the time it started till the time it stops. So they got to start the plane, taxi out, fly the plane, land the plane, do all those things. So that's how those numbers can be calculated. However, unless they explicitly say add 0.2 or 0.3 to this, don't. Because they're gonna, like, they may ask you how many sorties you did. You may have to figure that out. Like, what are you gonna, like, what's a sortie? Define a sortie. It's not defined in FAR. So do figure out how they want it displayed. Display it the most basic way possible. Let them make any modifications or bump anything up. Because if you're trying to just meet the minimums based on that 0.3, bro, you're not there yet. I know. I spent 5 years not there yet. 5 years toiling, wishing I could add that 0.3, like just being like, I I qualified because I have, like, if you just add that 0.3, like, I've got 2,200 hours. Like, look at this, look at all this 121 time I've got 750 hours. And if you count my military time, then I'm like right there competitive. And they're like, nah, you're not competitive. So thanks for swinging by. We'll catch you on the next round.
No, I love that. I think some highlights from that is I'm glad you brought up the point two and the point three, because that used to be a thing, or it was a thing. I don't know
It
where it
really
came.
was a thing. It's died down.
It's died down a lot, but the psychology behind that is, well, it's not fair that a C-130 pilot can log time as soon as the Hobbs meter starts, but for a military helicopter, I can't start logging flight time until I do my hit check or my pack check. I start the airplane, I taxi out, I do my hit check or my pack check. And when I wait off wheels is when my flight time starts. And then in the same way, it goes to engine shutdown, right? So it's like, all right, well, am I taxiing or starting up and doing the all my CDU stuff? That's a point two. That's 12 minutes, right? That's justifiable. It is. It is justifiable, but people don't want to see that. And
I need to
so
do a hit check in the 7.5. I need to try to do a hit check in the
yeah, it's
7.5.
the engine accelerations when it's really cold outside. Just throw them, but so I kind of want to. I'm not, again, we're not an authority, if you will, but I kind of want to put that to bed and saying, like, the days or the questions about the point two or point three, like, don't do it. And if you
Mhm.
do, that's on you. That's your decision. But just know that you're putting yourself at risk for someone saying, hey, these hours aren't really adding up. Um, the thing about sim time, I really like your answer to that question. So it's like, so Landon, do I have to go back in my paper logbook, if I have a paper logbook, and just redo all of my hundreds of pages? No, you don't. Going through your logbook in detail, Rain Man style, is what's required. So just accept that having your logbook and just giving it over is not acceptable. You need to spend 10 hours on your logbook for a couple different reasons. One, to make sure it's right. And two, so when you present it to someone, you can present it with confidence. You can present it without hesitation. And they say, well, Landon, I got a question about your logbook. It's like, send it, man. I know that logbook through and through. I'm not error free because I'm human, but I'm pretty darn sure that thing is tight. I am willing to answer any question you have because I slaved for 10 to 12 hours on that logbook.
Can I
But
can
your
I
answer, good.
can I go get my logbook while you keep
Yes.
jabbering on? I'm gonna go get
Yep.
my logbooks. Hold.
Okay. For the sim question, though, I really like your answer. Your answer was just have an addendum page. So if you put on airline apps or on your resume on the top or your cover sheet or whatever you have, and the hours are different from your last page on the bottom right for total time, well, those don't look the same. I feel like they should look the same. And they say, why doesn't it look the same? And they're going to look at your addendum and they're going to go, oh, the addendum says these hours are credited to sim, these hours don't count, these hours, whatever. And then at the bottom of the addendum, it'll say, here's my new total time that my logbook isn't reflecting because I included sim hours. But here's the answer to your question. So like Nik said, they look at your logbook, the resume, they don't match. Calculator? Hold on a second. Addendum. Nope, don't need it. Here's the answers. And as far as getting it notarized, I'd never heard of that until your podcast, Nik. But full send, man. Full send,
Yeah, full
100%
send.
effort.
You don't
If
have to do it.
you don't have to, but full send it, man. It's like what, $20 get a notary? I mean, present yourself as best as you can. And if it's not that expensive to get it notarized at the local UPS store, just go do it. I mean, whatever.
And let me say this, that notary thing is my hot take. That is me thinking of, like, what's the cayenne pepper I can put on this. And so it probably doesn't matter. But if it matters more, then I just had a sweet little score. I
Yes.
didn't do it on mine, but now that I'm way smarter, man, what it would have been good. So, I hope you talked about something really good. So these are my logbooks. Okay. A bunch of things. So I've got a regular Navy logbook. This is a regular Navy logbook. You see all these tabby tabs? These are like yellow are instrument checks. Blue, we call them NATOP checks. It's like your annual like line check kind of stuff.
A parts.
And so I went to, like, this instrument check was right here. It was in a T-34 as an instructor, and Rodenberger was the guy I flew with. Like, it's right here. Then I've got red tabs on the top, and red tabs are really interesting benchmarks. These red tabs on top, 25 hours PIC nighttime, 250 hours, 75 hours of instrument, 100 hours of night, 500 hours of cross country. I've got an orange one where I got my wings. And so I've got like this thing. This thing is all the things, and it's written in my wife's handwriting, and it's beautiful because she's a calligrapher, and like it just makes it easy. Okay. Now here's my little civilian one that when I flew my DA-42 and where I got my multi-engine land, and it has 26.2 hours in it. And that's pretty exciting. And it's just got a couple tabs, but I did have a check ride in it and a flight review, and I tabbed out where that is. And it's got Mr. Phillips' signature on there, which is like, he's my mentor, and having his signature in my logbook is like my favorite thing. Okay, moving on, more details. This is a little pocket logbook. Look at the difference. This is like a regular shorty logbook, like a short one. Then you have the massive ones, and then this is a little one. This doesn't have any tabs, but it has 1,000, let's see, 1,004.2 hours, 1,004.2 hours of 121 time. And this doesn't count. 1,002.4 hours, and it doesn't count. And I found that out the super hard way when I went and interviewed at my major. Standard flight crew log, trip and expense record, not aviator flight book, not pilot log. Just because of that, every page is signed. Every hour is accounted for. Every takeoff, every landing, every actual instrument, every location, every side number, everything. And it doesn't count. So don't be like me. This is some craziness. So I used to keep this in my pocket. I'd take it out, write it down, do the thing. You're supposed to take this information and transfer it into a real logbook. And I didn't know. It's a legal document, and this doesn't count as a legal document. So pivoting. The only reason I got the job is because I had this folder. I literally went and sat down as an Excel spreadsheet. This is a spreadsheet of all my time. It's blurry because my thing is focused on me and it's not an autofocus, but it's every hour of flight time that I've ever done, hundreds of flights. And it shows fixed wing multi-engine, military, civilian, turbine time, total time, helicopter time, like the specific aircraft that I flew. And then it has a page. The next page is like, here's the errors. Here's the errors. Here's what they are. Here's what they stand for. And then when you go into my logbook, I have a secondary. I just kind of threw this as my notes for myself, and I actually left it in. That's like, hey, on June 5th and October 5th, there's a 0.8 total. The time is a calculating error. There's a calculating error on August 2nd, 2002. First pilot time is 1.5 hour calculating error, like all my notes to myself. And I transposed that there. Anyway, I'm rambling on, but this black book saved my life because every single page is signed by me. Every single page counts every single hour that is also in this thing, because I took all my hours and I transposed it into an Excel spreadsheet because I have so much anxiety about that stuff, and that saved my bacon. So make sure, like, I wanted to get those logbooks to show you that little logbook because it terrifies me that that's a thing that somebody could be like me and do. So find the way to save the bacon.
So now I have questions.
Uh-oh.
So that
You don't think I
small
have this many
logbook,
hours?
yeah. So how did you get hired? Yeah, no. So my question is, if I heard you correctly, the small logbook didn't count because it wasn't a logbook, but
Yeah.
an Excel also isn't a logbook. Log 10 Pro also isn't a logbook. Zulu log is not a logbook. How does that
Yeah.
make sense?
I don't know, but they accepted it literally. So those that listen to the show already know what I'm going to say, but I was in my interview. I interviewed at Frontier, and I remember Jerry coming up to me and saying, "Hey, is this your logbook?" And I said, "Yeah." He's like, "This is the best logbook I've ever seen. Like, this is thank you for tabbing everything out. That was awesome." And I had this little guy too, because I only have I only have 3.5 hours of flight time at Frontier, and it's also in this logbook. Um, the so I hand this guy all the things, and so the dude comes back, starts asking me questions like, "Hey, um, this this is not a logbook. This doesn't count." And I was like, "That's all my 121 time." And I had to play it cool. Like I was like, "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Like I did not know." And I said, "Listen, if you would allow me, I have a digital printout of every single flight I've ever done, and maybe you could compare them and see what you think." It's got every single thing in there. And I had literally the morning of, I went through and signed all those pages. I was like, well, I don't know if I need to do this or not. It doesn't even have a line that I drew in there for a signature. It's just in the bottom right hand corner of every page. And he was like, he looked at it and he's like, "I'll get back to you." And it was like 40 minutes. It was so long that I didn't get to interview with the rest of the people. The rest of the people interviewed. I sat there. He came around the corner and was like, "Hey, listen, we're going to go ahead and accept it. Why don't you go get lunch? You can come back and interview when you're done." And I was like by myself the rest of the time. It was so like, oh my God. Anyway, that is the thing. I don't know why they accepted it, but it is like, maybe it was just because like, well, this guy's so dumb. He put forth all this extra effort. Let's just bring him on.
Look how
Let's
sad he
hope for the
is.
best. I mean, I didn't like, I was not, I was also like, I want to specify, like, I wasn't a known quantity. I wasn't the podcast guy. I didn't have Ready for Pushback. I was every other person. And so I don't like, I think that if I were to try to apply now, like my name would carry something. And I don't say that in a conceited way or anything, but I think that people just know who I am now. So,
So,
I struggled through that.
so the lesson then is if and when you're logging your flight time, you need to put it in a logbook,
Mm-hmm.
an
A
actual
logbook.
logbook,
Who
or
knew?
a known digital logbook.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I hear, if I'm an Excel guy, because I don't want to pay for a digital logbook because I don't like that, that's also okay.
It was for me. If I were you, I would pay for whatever the hell you're going to pay for and
Yeah.
just pay for. Like, dude, the digital logbook is so
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is so. And listen, you can stop paying for it as soon as you get hired by your major, because you're never going to need your flight time again unless you get fired. So, so who cares? Like, it is everything. I like to say everything in aviation is $5,000, and there's like the ancillary bucket, which includes like your logbook and your resume review, or what, like there's a group of things that are just like between $90 and $200 that just add up to $5,000, and that's also in the bucket because your typewriting's $5,000, and your this check ride and that check ride and this, like, so everything's $5,000. So you just have to have buckets of $5,000 laying around as you go through. And that's one of them. So go ahead and spend that money. There are certain things you should 110% spend money on. And I think the digital logbook is one of them. And I have another one in my head that is 1,000% the thing you need to spend your money on, but I can't tell you about it yet.
Understand. So from what I hear, and I think I'm safe to say this, I think we can agree that instead of playing the game of I hope this works, it's
Yeah.
for the most safe option, circle of control, have
Mm-hmm.
a paper logbook bona fide or a known logbook, digital logbook company, Log 10 Pro, ForeFlight, I don't know all of them, but to be the most safe, that is the most safe option.
Yeah, literally collect them all, bring them with you like you're collecting
Yeah.
Pokemon. Like huge stack of all the documents that you could ever want, because the worst thing you can do is have something at the house.
Yes. I want to mention one thing before I double tap on that point. You had said again, and I appreciate you saying it, but I want to highlight it, is you had said that your post-it note on the front cover of the one logbook you held up, it
Yeah.
had an error in calculation. So what I didn't hear you say was I got a brand new logbook and I transposed all my hours over to remove the error. And you also didn't say that you scratched it out in your logbook and changed the bottom times and made it sloppy. You merely added an addendum that you allowed to account for that error. Is that correct?
Yeah. There's no reason to go through the whiteout game or to transpose a new logbook. Bringing it out is sufficient. You just need to know that it's there.
Okay. That's good, because that saves a lot of people time, because I probably would have transposed it. I probably would have done the scratch game. So the bottom of pages 70 through 110 would have had a scratched out total time, right? So no need to do that.
Is
Um,
that like, think about that though. Think about when, I'm not going to pretend to know what you guys went through when you got picked up for the regiment, right? But think about the level of attention to detail you had to do, especially with like mission briefs and stuff like that. Like, would you scratch some bullshit out?
no,
No.
unless the pen and ink change, but that's usually last minute. So
Last minute. If you're
yeah,
doing last minute and you're in your suit headed to the place, like, dude, broski, like, let's take a breath. Come on.
no, I like that, and I want to make a point here too. Is that it's the so what, right? It's task purpose, right? The purpose of all of this attention to logbooks, point three, no point three, TPIC, which I'll come back to, is the employer has to have a standard basis of measurement, and that has to be established. And so if we are an exception to policy, or does this count? Tilt rotor is another whole conversation, right? The
Yeah.
reason why we have to do all these breakouts and addendums and notes is because they're evaluating you based off of their criteria that meet this standard that they measure from this way. So us having to adapt the way we communicate that information to them to speak their language is why we have to do all this. Because if I'm looking at a standard and I look at yours and it's not the standard, now I have to pull out my calculator. Now I have to ask questions. So making ours look like their standard is why we have to do this. Would you agree?
Yeah. I think about the 20 different ways you can log flight time. You spent all your time in the Army probably not logging as much flight. Like, you were responsible for a lot of that. The Air Force did it in a system, then changed the system, and then asked them to do it themselves. The Navy started out with paper, moved to some digital, then did both, and then did neither. And then the Coast Guard did it different, and then the freaking civilian world does it a different way, and then there's 20 ways that they do it. And so at the end of the day, when you hand your logbooks over to the 5 people that are responsible for going through 40 logbooks, there's a permutation there of numbers of different ways things can be calculated. And so if you come with some complexity, like, I want you to come Dr. Seuss style, like Fisher Price, like, come the basic, like color code, big numbers, because they're all over 45 and they all wear glasses, easy to see, easy to read, easy to understand, pointy, talky, all the things like you learned in SEER school, all that stuff. If you do that, like, they're like, he's basic just like me. You're hired.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that you said bring your brown bomber, your flight records from the
Yeah.
Army, the Navy's, or what is it, green folder?
No, Air Force is green, Navy's is NATOP. Anyway, yeah, look at this stupidness. Like, you don't know, I don't know, we don't know.
I don't know. So I like that you said bring that with you, because that's needed. But you had also said in your podcast that they don't like the employers, people, things don't like the single line entries. Okay. So we have our brown
Mm,
bomber and it's
okay.
here. And instead of saying, yeah, my civilian logbook of fixed wing is all here, and then if you want all of my premium experience, it's in this brown bomber. They're going to be like, what is this? So what do we do about it? You can go to Milkeep, right? Academy.com, you get a discount on Milkeep. They can transpose the hours for you based off your, I think it's 759, right? And you can upload it to a digital logbook. You can hand transpose all of them if you'd like. Doing that is important, but just thinking that my 2,000 hours flying in the military is represented in this brown folder, that's good to go. It's not. I would propose it's not, and you need to put more effort in, right? Now with that, and I'll ask you, Nik, when you were flying 60s, did you ever log cross country time?
Let me see. I got my logbook right here. Where'd it go? Cross country time. Yes.
You did.
Yes.
Okay.
Not officially, but if I was more than, is it 250 miles away or something like that? What,
It's
I don't know. I would look at where I was going. If I went Jax to Jax and I was just going to do some turf flying in Florida, then no, I didn't answer it. But if I was flying from Jax to Norfolk to get on the carrier, I would count that, like I counted that separately I made a separate category when I did my paper logbook, right? So that's how I did it. Should you do it? I never thought about it, but I looked at the distance requirement. I didn't count it all. I didn't count it all individually, but most of your time, I flew the T-34 too. So like I was always way far out. Like that was always cross country-esque. So that was an easy one, but 3 hours and a 60 might be 40 miles away from where you started.
Yeah. I just did a quick Google search because I don't want to say the wrong thing, but
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
it's 50 greater than 50 nautical miles.
See,
So it's not far. So I thought I remembered 60, but it's 50. So I always used to
you flew the
remember.
60.
Yeah. I used to, my heuristic was if I'm going 120 knots, it's a half hour. So
Oh,
for
okay.
people who have the cross country question, because I did not log any cross country, I didn't have a logbook in the military, but I did the mill keep and I sent it to Log 10 Pro, and then I had to go in and edit it. Right. So for that, I want to bring up the addendum page. So I did not log cross country time. For those who have deployed, I leave from Shank or Bagram and I land to the target. The target doesn't have an ICAO identifier, right? So I can't prove.
It doesn't say airport to airport in the reg.
Correct. But there's this confusion of like, how do I count for cross country? What I would recommend, and Nick, I'll ask your opinion, is on the addendum page, if you can justify these flights as cross country with certainty, then in the addendum page, I would say that. So for example, when I was flying at Fort Campbell, the Destiny ramp, which where the helicopters were parked, in the restricted area, the reservation, if you will, was on post. Okay. From the Destiny ramp all the way to the far west edge of restricted area was not greater than 50 miles. Someone could fact check me and say, but hear me out. It was not greater than 50 miles. So any flight that I did out of Campbell that I did not log go into Aniston or whatever to go get Lambert's Cafe, right?
Aniston.
If I did not have
Throat rolls,
baby. If I did not have a airport and it just said K-hop, because that's what my 759 said, which then Millkeep said, and my digital logbook now says, I did not log any of that as cross country because I couldn't with certainty say that I'd left the restricted area or I wasn't doing traffic patterns. Now, in Savannah, the restricted area was at Fort Stewart, and that was greater than a 50-mile flight to the training area, if you will. And very, very rarely did we ever do traffic pattern work at Hunter. So all of my Savannah flight time, if it said SVN, I did include as cross-country time. As for deployment time, I think I said 50% of that, 75% of that. Pick a number of how long did you spend training, doing aero gunnery, doing repos, and how many of those did you actually fly from fob to fob, or did you fly from fob to target, right? Those aren't, you didn't log cross country in the past. You now have this problem set of it asks me for my cross country. I did not log it, nor do I remember where I went. How can I, with utmost integrity, justify these batch of hours are more likely than not to have been cross country? I would propose on the addendum page that is an acceptable way to say these flight hours were cross country. I didn't log them, but I'm counting them for these reasons. How would you say I was wrong in that?
I'd say you could. I will leave that. I would leave that conversation to the boys and girls at Millkeep and how they like to do that. Maybe. I mean, why not? Like more is less, more is better when it comes to that. I'll say don't get your addendum page looking chaotic and insane because he won't be able to break stuff out. So it needs to look simple and good. I was trying to remember. I mean, I haven't looked at these in 7 years of these logbooks. So I was trying to remind myself how I figured all that out. But if you need 250 hours of cross country time and you're breaking 248 to 255 and that's your threshold, like that's way more important to you than if you've got 3,000 hours and you've been flying this, that, or the other for a long period of time. Like the 250 hours of cross country is just kind of like, yeah, okay, we did that. And we're like talking specifically to the military folks because that cross country time, I didn't realize before I got into the civilian aviation world how like tricky people get when it comes to like, man, I got to go do a cross country flight. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, we just always went to a place, like lunch was always free if we bought all the gas, so we might as well go do it. So that's how we figured all that.
I like it. So next question, how do I log? I logged 1 hour of night unaided per year flying 60s.
You
Can
did? I
I?
don't think I did.
Well, you had to do it for an A part, I think, or maybe it wasn't an hour. It was like a part of an
Maybe.
hour. You had to do like
Dang,
one
I don't even
approach.
remember that part.
So Nick, can I, what would be a recommendation of, can I log NVG time as night time?
I think so. I'm not gonna authoritatively say it, but I think so because the sun is down and
Correct.
there's no carve out for NVGs.
I did because of that. It was past sunset.
Yeah, isn't it like 30 minutes after sunset to 30 minutes before or something like that?
It
Think
sounds
about it, because when you put the goggles on, when you're
It's
putting the
ENT.
goggles on, what's that?
ENT.
Yeah. So that, I mean, do I even have green time in here? Like, well, not green time, but like goggle time. I don't even know if in the Navy we broke out goggle time,
Okay. I mean,
because
my opinion on it.
we just had it all the time.
Right. So the way I did it, and again, I'm not an authority on this either, but the way I justified it was it says such and such nighttime. And it's like, well, I don't have any of that. We never fly around night without goggles. It's like, okay, well, what's
Well,
the
it doesn't
FAR
say
say?
aided night and unaided. It doesn't break out aided and unaided.
Neither does
The FARs
Airline.
don't break it out. Do they? Yeah, no, mine just says nighttime and it says 2.5, 2.6, 3.0. That's a
But
long
from an
flight.
integrity standpoint, if someone was like, I flew all this nighttime, but you knew in your head that it was MVG time, and now there's that pause where you're like, oh no, what if they ask me, you flew all this nighttime in the military unaided? And you're like, now you're in a weird spot where it's like, okay, no, we can
No.
contingency plan. We have thought through this. I flew MVG time, but there is no, in my mind, I'm not flying day because it's not that. It is past sunset. Just because I had a visual aid device on my face doesn't mean that I wasn't flying at the period of darkness.
Okay, so first off, let's not get in an argument with an interviewer. Second, I've never had one person like even ask if I was wearing goggles or not.
Okay.
Or do I know anybody? Nobody I've ever heard of has been splitting hairs about goggles. Like nighttime's nighttime. The fact that you can see, I mean, what if you had 10 giant spotlights on your plane and you're flying around? That's the same thing. If you're a law enforcement person and you're using the FLIR, does that count as nighttime because you're looking through IR?
Yeah.
Like, no, all of like nighttime's nighttime, and that's totally has to do with whatever the hell's happening on this flat Earth, right?
Yeah.
So
And I want to talk about it because I want to demystify it. And I do not want it to be a stumbling block for folks, is that nighttime is nighttime. The civilian industry doesn't really care about NVG time. So don't stumble over that. I wanted to move to the hot topic of, we're talking about logbooks and time and quantifying. So, turbine PIC, or multi-engine turbine time, multi-engine turbine PIC. My Black Hawk had 3 turbines. I think an AP's turbine. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's been a while, but
Cool
I had
story.
2. What's that?
Cool story.
I had 2 turbine engines,
You sure
and
did.
I'm the turbine PIC, and it's a multi-engine aircraft, Nick. Can I log that as TPIC or multi-engine turbine time?
What drives the helicopter?
It's a turbo shaft. It's a rotor. It's a rotor
Does
system.
that drive the helicopter?
Drive it like drive or like engine power?
How does it fly through the air? Does it fly through the air because it's got those engines?
No.
Okay.
Well, yes,
it flies
because
through the air
generating
because
power,
it has
but-
that. It flies through the air because it has that rotor head taking a big bite out of the air, and
Yes.
that tail rotor just making sure you can stay straight if you do the dance, right? So that like the engine on a turbine driven, like a helicopter is not it. If you had a pusher, if you flew a Raider, right, like some kind of Sikorsky with a pusher, like you might have some kind of argument that your turbine time could count with a pusher on your helicopter. But if you have a rotor, like that's different. That's just a different breakout. You have a helicopter, you're a helicopter person. Sucks to suck, but that's who we are.
Yeah, your thrust is generated by a rotor system, not the thrust generated by a turbine engine. And they got the turbo prop. Obviously, that's a category. But
I mean, my T-34 time, that was a PT6 engine, and I know like they loosely count it as turbine time ish, but they don't like when they look at it, they're like, oh, it's just T-34 time. Like he's not flying a complex jet. He's just flying some like fat airplane from the 70s.
So to kind of put, again, we're not an authority, but just to kind of give guidance is when airlines ask for TPIC time, there's a standard. They're looking for jet time, turbo prop, a function of airplanes. So the fact that it is not unduly justified that you did fly a multi-engine turbine aircraft and you were the PIC, it does not count for that TPIC block. I think it's we're safe to say that that's very, very, that's a true statement.
Think about how those Harrier guys feel about the fact that they're not multi-engine turbine, and they're flying a little jet, still single engine.
No, I like that. Let's see here. All right, next question. PIC time. I'm the PIC of my C-17. I went and slept in the bunk for 2 hours. I came back. Or I'm a PIC. It's a dual PIC aircraft and a Black Hawk, but I was doing PI duties. Maybe I'm a flight lead in an FMQ, right? Both are PICs. Can I log that as PIC time? What about time building where I do the safety pilot thing? Like where do I go? What's your guidance on that PIC time?
So if you're signing for the plane, that's an easy win with the PIC. If you're instructing, then you're instructing. If you're flying a C-17 and you're going and you've got 3 pilots, you need to be not logging that. Like if it's a 10-hour flight, you're going to have to divide that into thirds since you're going to basically spend a third of the flight not at controls, right? And or maybe you have 4 pilots or whatever the thing is, right? So you've got to be careful about how you do that. Again, we start to get into is Nik the authority on saying this? I say you need to be able to defend your answer clearly on the most basic level without trying to flourish it too much. Because if you understate it, it's easier for them to raise your bar up than if you overstate it and they're like, no, really, we see you here. So that's like, be careful with all of that. And it's tricky. Because if you're, when I was an instructor, I just logged instructor time when I was flying the T-34. When I was never an instructor in the 60, so I don't have any instructor time in there. I also even though the FARs say hey, whoever's got controls of the aircraft, before I was an aircraft commander, if I didn't sign for the bird, I didn't count that time. And so a majority of my 53 time actually is as a non-aircraft commander because so I have very little PIC time in the 53. And that's just the baseline that I brought forward because I'm not trying to influence them just to sneak in to get the job, because that's how I felt, is what can I do to sneak my way in here.
I really like that. And I think, using that guidance when you're filling out, the airline apps. And then my recommendation is when you get the email, use the recruiter, ask the recruiter questions, ask those specific questions before you go to the interview and you actually get a logbook review. And if you have to go back and make changes based off of the answers you got from the question you asked to the recruiter, and then they say, hey, why is your airline apps different from what I'm seeing now? You can say, hey, I talked to a recruiter. This said that, but I got clarification. That's why this changed. But just use your tools, right?
Okay, let me talk about that real quick. The email that you send to the recruiter, you need to have all your questions in one email. Hey, and number them. Boom. Here's my 4 questions. Because if you go back and forth with 4 emails, beat it, kid. I don't want to talk to you. I'm already annoyed. Okay, so step 1, get all your stuff in one sock. Number 2, the response, if the response makes you go back and change your application, that's when you're allowed to send response number 2. Hey, I made these modifications in my application and it made some changes. I just wanted you guys to see it before I showed up to interview. And then you get her response or his response. and then you print those things out and you put them in your notebook and you have them in your hand. So when they ask you about it and they're going to punch your teeth out, you can be like, but wait, before you punch my teeth out, check out this little email that I have. And you'd be super humble about it. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. So you followed all the directions. Because if you just do it and then hope for the best and you add 2 failures on there that wasn't there, like, see, you wouldn't want to be it. Enjoy the Uber back to the airport, right?
I
I
like that.
see it. It
I
happens
know. That's why I asked, man.
all the time. It
Yeah.
happens every week. Tell your friends to listen to my show, y'all. Come on.
Yes. Yes. Last
All right.
question
Last
before
question.
we fizzle out and say the continual goodbye. We walk to the cars together and we say goodbye again. So um when should people apply? So there are 2 frames of thought. It's apply early and you're not qualified, but your app is in there and the airline can see how long you've been in the line, which helps you because this guy's been in the line for 2 years. Or second frame of thought is don't apply until you're qualified, because if you do and you're not, you go to the bottom of the stack. You want to apply so when you populate, you're at the top of the stack. Which one should people do?
Okay. So a lot of people might not realize this because it's been a while, but there used to be a company called FedEx. And they, on the first page of their application, the very first thing, it asks for your name, it asks for your email address, it asks for your phone number, and it has a check block to say if you have your ATP complete. If you can't check that block, you cannot move on to the next page. If you do check that block and you don't have it, you're fired. First place is a trip or a Cadillac. Second place, set of steak knives. Third place is you're fired. And if you don't know that, you should go check that out because that is one of the best quotes ever to be written. I'll tell you, it depends on the company on how they write their application. If they say that you must have ATP, restricted ATP mins, or you must have an ATP, or you must have whatever. Southwest used to say you must have a 737 type rating like 10 years ago. If it says you have to have it, then don't submit anything until you do. Is it useful? Is it useful for you to have 500 hours and apply to Delta? Probably not. However, building that application might take you until you have 1,500 hours because it's so much work. So if you, I will tell you that if you're relatively close and they don't have and they don't have anything requiring you to have 1,500 hours. If you hear they're hiring at 3,000 hours and you have right at 1,500 hours, I would still be applying. If I had 1,400 hours, I would be building my application and not submitting it until once you have the minimums, then it's time to apply. You may not be competitive, but you need to apply. And as you're building that application, when you tell them you're ready to apply, that tells me that you are ready to interview. So if you hit submit and you are not ready to interview and you get called 2 days later to go interview, you're going to be in a world of hurt and you're going to miss the big opportunity. So, that is my only plug for Spitfire Elite is if you're building this stuff, you need to be ready for it to happen. If you've got a ton of time, that's great because it's an opportunity for you to do application review and get the things nice and tight. That way, when you do have the minimums, you can hit submit. The whole idea of coming back to the top of the pile and stuff like that, I don't buy it. And here's why I don't buy it, because you're not competitive, but maybe there's something in there that's really interesting. Maybe there's a thing in there that makes you pop a little bit. Maybe they do a scrub. Maybe you go to NGPA and you meet the Frontier team, and now it's a couple weeks later and they're starting to review all the applications, and they're starting to look at hey, this guy's low time, but oh, he's got a DFC. That's really interesting. Oh, this person's the president of this organization. That's really interesting. Oh, whatever. This person was a search and rescue pilot and they have 30 rescues. This person flew the C-17s out of Afghanistan when they closed the doors. All of those things matter, even if you're low time. You're an O3, you're a warrant 2 or whatever you're doing, and you're trying to get that time. Your ability to get in front of them is the thing that's going to pay off more. Also, it's a long game, bro. It is a long game. Don't hop over to OBAP and be like, man, didn't work for me. Like, I know people, there are 7 conferences a year. Next year, there will be 8 conferences a year. I know people that not just go to the 7 conferences, they'll go to Sun and Fun and Oshkosh too, just to triple down. And they'll do it too. I've had one guy go to 15 conferences before he got hired. And it's not that like he knew everybody there. The recruiters all know, like when I talk to the directors of hiring at these places, like they know the names of the people that are their concierges that do the volunteering for their booth.
Wow.
They know them because they see them all the time. They may not, like, there may be something, maybe they've got too many failures. Maybe they've got something that's holding them up. Maybe they don't have enough hours yet. Maybe it's just a not yet. So you just don't know. And so be consistent, be positive, make it happen for yourself because nobody else is going to do it for you.
I like that. And in case you missed it, Nik said, fill out your app, and there was words, and then he said, and then submit. For those who may not know, filling out an airline apps or an application takes a lot of time. It's like an eQuip. I think it's called eQuip. They probably change it now for like
your SF-86.
It takes forever. So just
you're going to need your if you're military and you've got a clearance, like pull that SF-86 and print it out because you're going to use all those addresses, bro.
Yeah. Yes. So my recommendation is just because you're starting your app doesn't mean the airline can see it. So generally you fill out the application. It could take you 2 months until you hit submit. They don't see it. And then every month you update the hours and hit submit again. Right. But don't say, I'm not ready to apply. And then you are ready because the conference is next week. I'm going to knock out an application. Maybe, but you're going to be on the computer all day or 2 days or 3 days. So go ahead and start the application, save it. And then when you're ready to submit, then you can choose to submit. So,
yep.
Dude, I love that. Dude, this is really good, man.
Yeah. Hey, man, I appreciate you talking to me. Thank you for just being my friend and all these things. I could talk to you for another hour. However, today is Ash Wednesday and I got to get to church. So.
I got you. I love you, brother. I love you. If you guys haven't checked it out already, I'm sure you have, but check out Ready for Pushback. Check out Spitfire. Set yourself up for success. Use all the tools to your advantage. Go to breakturn.com, go to the Breakturn Academy, get discounts on digital logbooks and mill keep and all that stuff. But get around the campfire, figure out where you can get an advantage, right? Success is defined as a steady accumulation of advantages. Start looking those things out. If you're in a transition, a year, 2 years out, now's the time to start. If you're already out and you're kind of behind the power curve, that's fine. Use your tools, your people, information to your advantage. But appreciate your time, Nik.
I love you guys.
Love you, man. Thanks a lot, everybody. Appreciate you all tuning in. We'll see you guys next time. See ya.